You know that feeling when your life looks stable on paper, but something inside it feels unfinished, not chaotic, not broken, just incomplete in a way you can't quite explain. There's a certain kind of person who carries this quiet weight. They did what they were supposed to do. They adapted. They kept moving. And yet, there's a strange sense that something important slipped through without ever being acknowledged. Most people don't see it that way. From the outside, it can look like indecision, restlessness, or even ingratitude, like someone who just can't settle. But that interpretation misses something deeper, because this isn't confusion. It's something closer to unresolved meaning. This is often what shows up as career grief without closure, especially for those who grew up in the in-between generation, often called Xennials. And it's rarely talked about in a way that actually makes sense. There's more going on here than people realize. Psychologically, humans don't just need outcomes, we need narratives. The brain is wired to complete emotional loops, to make sense of effort, loss, and identity over time. Research in cognitive psychology shows that unfinished experiences tend to stay active in the mind longer, a phenomenon sometimes linked to what's called the Zeigarnik effect. But in real life, it doesn't feel like a theory. It feels like something you can't quite put down. For many Xennials, careers didn't follow a clear arc. They entered adulthood during a shift, analog expectations meeting a rapidly digital world. Stability was promised, but disruption became the norm. Industries changed. Paths dissolved. Opportunities appeared and disappeared faster than they could be processed. So instead of a clean story, start, struggle, resolution, what formed was something more fragmented. Starts without endings, effort without acknowledgement, transitions without reflection. And the nervous system notices that, because when experiences don't get integrated, they don't fully resolve. They linger, not as loud distress, but as a quiet sense of something still open. This often traces back to development, too. Many in this group were raised with a strong emphasis on persistence and self-reliance. You keep going, you adjust, you don't dwell too long, which works until there's no space to process what was lost along the way. So the mind adapts, it moves forward quickly, it learns to detach from closure, not because closure isn't needed, but because it wasn't available. And it's important to say, this isn't better or worse than any other way of moving through life. Some people have linear paths, others have layered ones. Neither is more valid. They simply shape the way meaning is formed. But here's the part that often goes unnoticed. That lack of closure also creates a different kind of awareness. When your path hasn't been neatly defined, you become more sensitive to nuance. You learn to read between transitions. You understand reinvention, not as a concept, but as something lived. There's a flexibility there, a depth, an ability to hold multiple versions of yourself without needing them to fully align. At the same time, there's a cost. Because without clear endings, it's harder to feel like anything is truly complete. Achievements don't always land. Milestones can feel muted. Not because they don't matter, but because part of you is still referencing everything that never got finished. And yet, none of this means something is wrong. It means your experience followed a different rhythm, one that didn't always allow for clean conclusions, but still holds meaning, even in its unfinished parts. That quiet sense of something missing isn't emptiness. It's memory, still trying to organize itself into something that makes sense. And sometimes, just seeing that clearly changes the feeling, even slightly. Because not everything needs to be resolved to be understood. And if this feels familiar, there are more layers to it than most people ever take the time to notice.